Alright, everybody, so this is a very grim story, so I obviously want to treat it with, appropriate seriousness. I usually like to take I try to be jokey and funny with my segments, and I'm sure at some point I will find a way to, tastefully incorporate some level of entertaining funniness to this segment, but it's gonna be a pretty grim one, fair warning. About a year ago, a 16-year-old trans girl in the UK was murdered by two fellow teenagers who basically lulled her into a false sense of security after a long obsession with her over many things, including a chaser mentality that grew into something very dark and degenerate and eventually led to the death, and I should say murder actually, of a completely innocent child. Now, what is believed to be a very similar thing has taken place, I apologize, here in America, only a few days ago. Now, this story, due to the current information that is publicly available, has some level of complication. I'm going to tell you what I think happened and my opinion on this. However, I reserve the right to say there could be future info that comes out that completely changes this. I find it highly unlikely, but I have gotten things wrong in the past, believe it or not. And I do have a responsibility to say this is still a developing story. Autopsy and toxicology, I don't believe, have come in, and there's still a lot that has not been officially confirmed. There's also a lot of misinfo passing around, such as the idea that the police determine the cause of death. It's a very long process that won't have even been found yet. There's still going to be investigations and stuff, so there's a lot that could come out from this. But I am going to be telling you what the mainstream current belief and what I think happened is, and what the police have claimed happened, which has gained a lot of controversy and scrutiny. But I nonetheless feel I should explain, since I have a responsibility to report on the info that we have. So, a non-binary 16-year-old, another child, named Nex Benedict, N-E-X, Benedict, was killed. Or I should say, we'll say for now, died, after a school beating. Now, there are more and more details coming out about this. Some of them feel like bizarre attempts at justification for the potential murder of this child. Claims that, Nex was a bully. While on the other hand, there's been far more reports that those claims are not true. So it's interesting how, in the wake of this kid's death, we're hearing conflicting reports on what they were like. Some people are saying, oh yeah, Nex was awful. And some people are saying, yeah, they were great. So it's makes you wonder if, the kids shit-talking Nex are maybe transphobic? Because a big part of this story is also the fact that this happened shortly after libs of TikTok targeted this particular county with her anti-gay groomer teaching in schools mindset. Is Nex a shortened name or something? No, non-binary people just tend to give themselves cool names. It's not assigned name at birth. I'm not going to dead name, but Nex is just a dope-sounding name, and non-binary people sometimes give themselves cool new names. It's not short for anything, it's just Nex. Simple as. He had a cool name. Or they had a cool name. It's very distressing to me that the immediate response from the right was to deny, it's short for Alexander. Good one. Anyway, the immediate response from the right was to deny that it was even possible that they were killed by their classmates or their schoolmates in what was claimed to be where the fight happened, the school bathroom. Now, there's a lot of reasons for this. A, some people might not be so quick to jump onto a story before all the details have come out, and that is somewhat admirable. But on the other hand, A story about a non-binary trans youth entering a bathroom that, for the record, it was a women's bathroom. Do you want to know why? Because shortly before this happened, a policy was passed that forced trans students to go to the bathroom of their assigned gender at birth. So Nex was in the women's bathroom, and that is where, if the story goes as most people are believing right now, Nex was attacked and killed and beaten. So a story about a trans person being killed by cis women, or cis girls, I guess, in a women's bathroom does not bode well for the conservatives' worldview of trans people being a threat to cis women. Like, the idea of the exact opposite thing of the thing they claim will happen actually happening when their policy goes into place, it is not a good look for them. So the immediate response from the right was to deny that this could have possibly been related, like that the fight and Nex's death could have possibly been related. So I'll go ahead and break down what I think happened, and I'll break down what the police claim. So, Nex entered the women's bathroom. In that bathroom, a fight started. We do not know how the fight started because of, like, constant conflicting reports. Some reports say that Nex threw... The worst case scenario for Nex reports are claims that Nex had bullied another student in the bathroom and poured water on them. I don't know how you would pour water on another student in a bathroom. Like, maybe with a water bottle, like fill up a water bottle maybe, I guess, but like, just seems weird. Yeah, it's really weird. So it's like, I don't know. There's a lot of like back and forth, but regardless, people using that aspect really just want to try to justify the killing of a kid. It wouldn't change the story regardless. But what ends up happening is a scuffle happens. Nex is outnumbered by multiple people, slammed to the ground. And if you know school bathroom floors, they are hard and they are not forgiving, okay? And Nex fell and hit their head. They were sent to the nurse's office, and then it was recommended that they go to a actual medical facility, which they did, and they were discharged that night. Nex then went home, went to sleep, woke up the next morning, and while standing in the bathroom before school the next morning, collapsed and was pronounced dead later that day. What I believe is the obvious conclusion is that Nex sustained terminal brain trauma from taking that fall, and it hit with a delayed reaction. The human brain is a fucking enigma. Brain hemorrhages can take a bit to kill you after the actual damage occurs. They can kind of sneak up on you after you think you're all good. It's genuinely terrifying. Brain injuries are genuinely fucking terrifying. That seems the most plausible scenario, especially considering it followed sleeping following a serious head injury. So it's like, you're generally not supposed to sleep off a concussion or a head injury. It's pretty fucking terrifying. But, the police claim there is, quote, no evidence that the fight / head injury and Nex's death are related. Mind you, this is not the investigators. This is not the people who will determine the, like, legal determination of, was this murder, were they connected? But the police of the local police have outright come out prematurely and said they do not believe the death is connected. People are being very quick to assume this must be the local police, and this is a very conservative area, for the record, an area that has recently been targeted by libs of TikTok, with her rhetoric and, like, her coverage, quite heavily. It seems somewhat plausible that the local police might put out a statement to try to cover it up. Some people have suggested maybe the kids involved maybe were, like, a kid of one of the local cops. It is a smaller town. It's possible. So it's really hard to say. We will find out more after toxicology and the autopsy has been done. But for now, that is all we know. However, the Human Rights Campaign put out an article called Honoring Nex Benedict, 16-year-old non-binary high school student who tragically died after school beating. And I figured we should read this. For better or for worse, I feel like it might be a good thing to go over, having to do with all this. The Human Rights Campaign typically has a good track record in my mind, but let's see what they have to say. Nex Benedict, a 16-year-old non-binary high school student, loved nature and watched the television show The Walking Dead. Fucking based. I read that already, by the way. I already knew about that. One of the things that made me, like, I don't know, something about finding out about a tragedy like this and learning that you relate to the victim kind of makes it hit even more different. Nex liked the television show The Walking Dead, drawing, reading, and playing Ark Survival Evolved in Minecraft. They were just like me for real. Nex also had a cat, Zeus, whom they loved. Nex's family traced part of their roots to the Choctaw Nation and were on a journey to understanding more about Nex's identity, like many other parents of transgender and non-binary youth. On February 7th, 2024, Nex was brutally and viciously beaten inside of a bathroom at Owasso High School in Owasso, Oklahoma, where Nex was a student. Nex was taken to the hospital and released, only to be readmitted the following day. On February 8th, 2024, Nex succumbed to sustained injuries and tragically died. Nex's death is at least the second violent killing of a transgender or gender-expansive person HRC has learned of in 2024. According to news reports, the Owasso Public Department was called out to Bailey Medical Center by Sue Benedict, Nex's mother, on February 7th, the date of the attack at around 3 p.m. The Owasso Police Department stated they were not made aware of the fight prior to being informed of Nex's parents, signaling that Nex's school failed to report the incident to the authorities. News reports also suggested that Nex was released the same day, only to return the following day when they were rushed back to the hospital. So some reports have included that, like, there have been past fights that Nex was in, or past, like, altercations Nex had been in which they were given punishment along with the other person, and people have said this must mean that Nex likes to get into fights, and this was just one that went too far, and Nex brought this on themselves, like, you know, the average conservatives trying to justify the murder of children, that kind of thing. They're all demonic, they're evil, but, like, the interesting thing is that if you know the American school system, you will remember a system or a slogan called the Zero Tolerance Policy. There you go, War Penguin. There you go, War Penguin. No matter what, in public schools in America, if you are bullied, you have to turn the other cheek and tell a teacher, and hope the teacher actually does something about it. Now, famously, the teachers don't do anything about it. So if you are ever forced to genuinely throw hands and protect yourself, remember, children don't have the rights of legal, like, citizen adults. So, like, if you, like, throw hands and protect yourself on school premises, guess what? You're both getting expelled. Or at least in trouble. I had a situation happen to me when I was younger where a kid who was the son of one of the teachers kicked me really fucking hard in the knee while I was waiting in the line to get lunch. I don't know why he did it. Like, maybe we were in like a debate or an argument of some kind, but he kicked me really hard in the knee like an asshole. And in response, I punched him in the gut. And, you know, it is what it is. Like, I just kind of pushed him. You know, it wasn't like a punch, more of like a, you know, just like, I just, like, double fist, just gut pushed him away, you know, almost like a stomach chest bump, but, like, just the fists, you know? And it was more of a fist push, you know? He immediately runs to tell after I push him back from that. And thankfully, this was all caught on camera. So we get to this point where there is this little, imagine a big lunchroom, okay? Like, one side of the lunchroom is like 80% of the lunchroom is all just the big open area with all the tables and stuff where the kids sit and eat. And then there's this, like, smaller area where they've got, like, a lowered down roof so that they can drop those, like, grates that they drop over, like, stores whenever they close at night in the city, like those, like, chain grate things that come down. They would drop those down, but they'd bring them up during lunch, and you'd walk into that doorway area, and it was, like, semi-open, semi-closed in, and you would walk into that area. Now, that was where the line was, and there were cameras trained right on us. perfectly right on us. And so when we went to the principal's office, I said, let's look at the footage on the cameras. Are those cameras are real, right? Let's look at them. Kids say the cameras aren't real. I want to see. The footage is there. Let's see for ourselves. You don't have to believe or disbelieve either of us. You can see it with your own eyes. That's what I would, and I asked for it. And the area where the camera, like, viewing area was this little room that was in the middle of that, like, it was like a little cube, like a little elevator tube almost, but there was no elevator. Like, imagine that. You would open a door. It was just this very small room with a computer desk and some chairs and TVs, and they just looked through the, and that would be how you would look at the lunchroom's cameras. And we just sat there. I was just in a cold sweat as the principal just kind of skimmed through the fucking footage and watched it, and I still got in trouble. My mom managed to get me out of it, but still. The zero tolerance policy is fucking serious, and if you even try to defend yourself against a bully, you will be reprimanded, and it will be in some way, shape, or form on a record that can come back in a situation like this and be used by malicious pieces of shit to make you look bad. I genuinely believe, I mean, all evidence and all life experience tells me, non-binary trans student, probably not the one going around bullying people on a physical level. I think that what probably happened is this non-binary trans nerdy student who's into The Walking Dead and video games and reading and drawing is not a bully, certainly not a physical bully, probably got bullied, fought back, got badly hurt, probably has fought back multiple times, has been reprimanded, and now on official paper, because fuck schools and fuck the school system and fuck the zero tolerance policy, it looks like Nex is as bad of an apple as whoever was bullying them. Yeah. 2 News in Oklahoma received a tip from a woman claiming to be the mother of Nex's best friend. She claimed that Nex had suffered head trauma. She said that 3 older girls were beating on the victim and her daughter in this girl's bathroom. She also mentioned that one of the girls involved in the incident was repeatedly beating Nex's head across the floor. Quote, all students, including trans and gender... So it seems like people are having to report this to the media that were involved to get it reported on because the police aren't taking these claims seriously. Interesting. All students, including trans and gender-expansive students like Nex, have the right to feel safe and protected while attending school. That Nex was only 16 years old compounds this tragic injustice, and they should have lived to see a fulfilling and authentic life. We continue to see a horrifying amount of violence against our community, and our community's youth seem to be bearing the brunt of it all. Extremist anti-LGBTQ+ hate accounts like online troll Chaya Rychik, the woman behind Libs of TikTok, who was recently appointed to Oklahoma's Library Advisory Board. Oh yeah, I forgot, she's part of local government there. She's also a domestic terrorist. She has inspired several bomb threats on children's hospitals after falsely saying they provide sex changes to minors. Libs of TikTok, who was recently appointed to Oklahoma's Library Advisory Board, are perpetuating a vile and hateful narrative that is permitting these types of public attacks. Their hateful speech is having a direct negative impact in the lives of trans and gender-expansive folks, including young students like Nex. This is a very depressing story, and I really don't know how else to cap this off other than to say that, like, I lean on the side of believing that Nex was murdered. I believe that they were most likely killed, and that it was just a delayed onset death due to the head trauma, oftentimes taking a little while to kill you in some cases, sometimes taking a night's sleep to kill you in some cases. This is very similar to the type of thing where conservatives will argue, if it does come out that the cause of death was head trauma, that they will George Floyd it, basically. It will be like it'll be a whole situation like that where they'll say, well, actually, it was the brain hemorrhaging that killed them, not the attack that caused the brain hemorrhage. It was definitely a brain hemorrhage. Everything about it screams brain hemorrhage. Hey, Delancer, what do you think? Brain hemorrhage? You're the most medically, knowing person and, medically educated person in my chat, I feel like. I feel like you probably are leaning on brain hemorrhage. Yeah, brain hemorrhage. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. Lucky Otter, that is a misgender right there. You just did a little bit of a misgenderino right there. I hope you didn't mean it. And I also don't believe there's any evidence that it was a heart attack. Are you referencing, like, the Heather Heyer thing, Lucky Otter? You might be referencing the Heather Heyer thing. Wait, are you referencing the Heather Heyer thing? That might be... You might not be misgendering. You might just be referencing what the right said about Heather Heyer. This is a classic brain hemorrhage from concussion? Yeah. Okay, yeah, you're referencing what they said about Heather Heyer. Yeah, Heather Heyer was ran over and killed by a neo-Nazi during Charlottesville, and the right claimed, despite us having footage and images of her being ran over, that she died of a heart attack from being scared by the car plowing through and quote-unquote being fat. So yeah, the right will always find a way to make, not only cheer on and gloat about the deaths of people that are part of minority groups they hate, but also find a way to make it their fault. Like, they won't even own that they wanted this and that they caused it. It's like, no, they did this themselves. Like they're so evil. They're, like, impressively evil.